Hi, my name is Jessica Tomines. Welcome back to my channel. Today I will be talking about my labor and delivery story. I really wanted to record the whole experience, but it happened so quickly, I didn't have time. But I do have some clips that I will be inserting throughout the video. So I gave birth to my daughter, who's sleeping right here, on August 13, 2022, and I did it natural birth without epidural. So if you're interested in hearing my story, please keep watching. So I'm currently 39 weeks and five days, I believe. Yes. I had an appointment earlier today and I did get a cervical check and a membrane sweep. I was pretty curious to see if I was dilating, and I'm actually 3 centimeters dilated, which is crazy. So far I'm not feeling any cramps, any contractions, so that's where I'm at this point. So it is currently 9 p.m. right now. I'm just gonna take a shower. I have everything prepped in case I start going into labor during the nighttime. One thing I do want to share about cervical checks and membrane sweep is that they are painful. Oh my gosh, the cervical check, it just feels like a lot of pressure. And oh my gosh, when the doctor asked me if I wanted to get a membrane sweep while she was checking me, I said yes. And I felt like I wanted to cry. Like if she continued doing the sweep, I probably would cry. And it just feels like it's never ending. You just want the doctor to just stop. If I just felt, I don't know, I felt like she was poking the baby or something. She did. So the Friday the 12th, after I took a shower, I decided to watch a YouTube video to induce labor. I saw this video and it had good reviews saying that they were able to go into labor right away. So I was kind of scared to do these exercises before. So around 10 p.m. on Friday, I did the exercises. It's a 10-minute video. It was pretty simple exercises, and then after that I went to bed. So around 2:30 a.m., this is Saturday, August 14, I woke up because I was feeling some cramping. They were actually contractions, but they were so far apart. They were 7 minutes apart. When I did get up from my bed, I felt a trickle of like water. So then I went straight to the restroom. Like it felt like I peed myself in the restroom. It just came out naturally, and actually my mucus plug came out, but I wasn't sure if it was urine or if it was my water breaking. But I did notice that there was a mucus plug. So then that's when I knew, I'm like, okay, this is labor. Like I'm actually going into labor. I woke up my husband. I was like, okay, I think it's time to go now, because we have my daughter who, she woke up at that time, and so we gave her like her milk. We basically like prep her. We decided to leave around 4:20 to start heading out to the hospital, because we were gonna have to drop her off at my parents first. So that would, by the time I get to the hospital, it would have been like 2 hours of having those 4-minute apart contractions. So around 4:40 a.m., we got to the hospital, and I had to walk myself all the way to the L&D, which was scary because my husband had to stay in the front to get a rapid test. And so they're like, just go up by yourself on the 3rd floor. And I'm just so scared because I'm in contractions. I'm scared that my water will break. It's empty. The hospital's empty because it's 4 in the morning. It's kind of scary. Once I get there, I tell them exactly what's going on. They told me, go get it. We need a urine sample. So I went to the restroom, got my urine sample, and then they put me in a triage room. And they're like, okay, get undressed. We're going to check you. So when I'm getting undressed, something came out like a gush of water came out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think my water broke. So then I quickly sat down in the gurney. Like, it just started gushing more and more and more. So then that's when I knew, like, okay, my water just broke. So when the nurse came in, I did tell her, I'm like, hey, I think my water just broke right now. So she was able to test it, and sure enough, it was my water that broke. So she said, okay, you're gonna get admitted, so let's start doing the process right now. So I'm having contractions, they're getting stronger. So she checked me and I was 5 centimeters. No wonder the contractions hurt. So I told her, I want epidural. That's the plan. I want epidural. I want epidural. I just want epidural. So she's like, okay, well, there's a protocol. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. The midwife comes in, saw the baby's position, and then she even ordered fentanyl for pain relief while I wait for the epidural. So I got the IV. They did a COVID test on me, and then around 5:45, I was admitted to a room, and that's when my husband was able to come in. I got one of the nurses who put me IV fluids. She put me antibiotics, IV antibiotics, because I was positive for GBS. But during that time that she was doing all this, I'm having contractions. I am in so much pain. And all I'm asking is, when is the epidural? When are they going to do the epidural? I'm in so much pain. So when my husband came into the room, he started asking some dumb questions. He's like, oh, does that mean you're in labor? Are you in labor? Are you in labor? And I'm just like in the middle of contractions. I couldn't even talk to him. I was too pissed. I did not want to tell him that, yes, when you get admitted to the hospital, it means that you're in labor. I just remember just like raising my finger, just like, stop. I didn't even talk to him. That was it. I just kind of didn't really talk to him as much because he was getting annoying. I am currently in labor. It's 5 centimeters. Waiting for the epidural. I'm in so much pain. It sucks.
Ready for your baby?
Yeah.
Just waiting for the epidural because she's in pain. Look at her room. It's so nice. It's a 5-star room in Kaiser Permanente.
So at this time, my contractions, I'm still getting contractions. Then the nurse said that she was gonna give me the fentanyl, and she's like, "Do you feel it?" And I'm like, "No, it still hurts." So she's like, "Okay, well, the fentanyl is, you're still gonna feel a contraction, but it's gonna take the edge off." And I'm like, "Okay." And then all of a sudden, I started feeling super sleepy, like drowsy. I can't keep my eyes open, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so dizzy. And she's like, oh, that's the fentanyl going through your system. I'm like, okay. So she's like, if you want, you should just sleep if you can. So then I just remember like closing my eyes because I can't even keep them open. Like, I'm so sleepy. But then I could still feel the contractions, very mild. If just feel like a little cramp. Um, So I'm like, okay, at least there's some pain relief there. And I just keep asking, when's the epidural coming? And the nurse just says, like, well, we need to finish the IV fluids first so your blood pressure doesn't drop. The anesthesiologist is working with another patient right now. They're done there, then you're next. So I kept asking and asking. Even my husband kept asking because I was in so much pain. So the fentanyl wore off, and like it slowly wore off, and then my contractions were very strong. So that's why I'm like, okay, where's my epidural? When's the epidural? So it was feeling like an eternity trying to get the epidural. So I remember the contractions were just happening. They were pretty close apart. And I was just thinking, okay, I'm one contraction away from my epidural. I'm one contraction away from this epidural. after the epidural, I'm not gonna feel anything. I'll be able to nap. But for now, like the contractions were just incredibly painful. It was like something was traveling. That's how I imagined it. Like it had like it just had to go through like the whole belly, to pass through the whole belly, and then it'll just go away. So then I don't even know what time it was. There was like a change of shifts for the nurses. So when they did the change of shifts, I remember I asked again the nurses, I'm like, when is the epidural? When am I gonna get the epidural? And I remember the nurse said, well, there's the change of shifts. After the change of shifts, then you're next. So they kept telling me that I was next and next, and I'm like, oh my gosh, these contractions are very painful. Like I felt like they were just telling me this and this, the same thing over and over, and I'm like, I am in so much pain. What the heck? Like I remember just feeling like in one of my contractions, I felt like I peed, like just fluids came out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I think I peed. I even told my husband, I'm like, I peed myself. So when one of the nurses came in, I'm like, I think I peed myself during my contraction. And she's like, it's probably not urine, it's probably your amniotic fluid, it's just the fluids coming out during the contractions. Maybe that's probably what's happening. So I'm like, okay. So then after that, every time I was having a contraction, like I just had like this urge to push, and like it would just like the fluids would just come out naturally when the push, and it just felt good. Like it just felt better, like some kind of relief. So I was just started pushing, like it was natural instinct to push during the contraction. It just made it feel better. Um, so, and it was just natural. It's not like I could stop my push. It was just happening by itself. So I was like, okay, um, I'll just be pushing. And when every time I would push, it would feel better. So I was like, okay, that means I don't know what that means, but it feels good, so I'm gonna keep doing it. And I felt like I didn't have no control. It was just like my body was just doing it naturally. So at this point, it was probably like 7 a.m. I'm not sure. Every time I have a contraction, I, I just want to push, and I push, and it makes me feel better. It just feels like I need to go to the restroom and like have a bowel movement, you know? So I'm like, okay, this is weird. I don't think this is right. Because I remember from my first pregnancy, when they were making me push, it was because I was already 10 centimeters dilated. The midwife comes in and she's like, how are you feeling? And I just asked her, is it okay to be pushing during a contraction? Because I'm pushing. And she's like, no, unless you're fully dilated, that's when you want me to push. It's okay to push once in a while, but if you're pushing all the time, let us know. Okay? So I was like, okay. So she left, and it just kept on happening. Like every time I had a contraction, I just couldn't stop myself, and it would just naturally my body would push, and it would feel better. It just felt like I needed to poop or something. Like I just wanted to push, push whatever I had inside, like push. And like moments later, the new nurse comes in, and I just asked her again. I'm like, I just want to push. Like, is it okay to be pushing? Like, I can't stop myself from pushing during the contraction. Those two nurses, one was training. So the nurse was like, yeah, you're not supposed to be pushing. So the nurse asked me, when was the last time you got checked? And I remember saying like 5 a.m. It was at 5 a.m. So she's like, okay, I'm gonna check you. So she put on her glove really quickly, and then as soon as she checked me, she she told the other nurse, go get the doctor. The baby is coming. Like you're ready to push. And then I remember just thinking like, oh my gosh, like what the heck? Are you serious right now? And she's like, there's no time for epidural. And I was like, what the heck? Are you serious? Like in my head, I was like, oh my gosh, no, 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 like this can't be happening. This can't be happening. Like I want my epidural. I'm supposed to be getting an epidural. So I was like scared. Like when she told me like it's time to push, there's go get the doctor, the baby's coming out right now. There's no time for epidural. I just remember just being like, no, 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 like this can't be this can't be happening. I need the epidural. Like at this point I was so scared. I was terrified. I was like, I'm gonna feel everything. Like what the heck? Are you serious right now? Like in my head I was just like devastated, like what the heck's mortified, like all the feelings were just happening while like I'm having contractions and I'm having to push, and the midwife comes real quick and she's like, oh wow, like you were really pushing, like the baby's really coming out. She's like, they're helping her prep, they're prepping the room real quick. I'm there and I'm just, at this point I remember my husband was using the folder and he was fanning me because I was like really hot at that point, and he just kept fanning me and I'm like, just fan me. And I remember just like wanting to throw up, and they gave me like a barf bag, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this is happening. Like, are you serious right now? I'm gonna give birth without epidural. Like this can't be happening. Like I was in shock. So at that point there was no way around it. There was just the baby's coming out without epidural. So it was like I had to just take it, you know? I just had to do it. It happened so quickly. I remember just the midwife getting ready. They put my leg up and they're like, okay, on the next contraction, you're gonna push. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, are you serious? Like, this is so quick. So I'm pushing. They made me push. They're counting. Like, they wanted, like, they made me do like my chin to chest. And then I had to grab my legs, both of my legs like behind the knee, and push them towards me and then push. And I'm like pushing, and they kept telling me to push, push, push. The pain is excruciating. Like it just felt like my rectum was gonna pop. I don't know, like it felt so painful. And the baby wasn't coming out. And I remember like, what the heck? Like I'm pushing so hard. They wanted me to push. At one point I remember like saying out loud like, I can't do this, I can't do this. And like all the nurses in the room and the midwife and like my husband were like, no, you could do it, you could do it, you just have to push, like you could do it. So just I couldn't give up. Like that was it. Like I couldn't give up. There was no way around it. I remember I was like in like my concentration, like my mental state, like just push, push. And I was getting mad at the midwife because, of course, I was in so much pain. I'm like, why can't she just help me push? Like, can you just pull the baby? Because she's like, I could see the baby. She's like, you want to feel the baby's head? And I was like, no, like, don't don't distract me. But they were like, you have to push. And I'm just thinking like, well, if you could see the head, why don't you just help me pull it out? Right before my contraction, one of the nurses was like, the ring of fire's coming up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that means it's gonna burn like hell. Ring of fire, just like it's burning up in your vagina, just crazy. I was screaming in pain, and then the baby comes out, and I don't even remember how I felt, but just like I just remember just feeling some kind of relief. And then I see the baby, and they put her right to my chest. Um, And I remember just seeing like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. Like, oh my gosh, like my baby's here, my baby's here. And at that point, I got distracted because of the baby. It's like, oh my gosh, I did it. Like the baby's here, the baby's here. So I'm getting distracted by the baby. They want me to do like, they're like patting the, like drying the baby up. They want me to do like, take my gown off to do skin to skin. And then I remember hearing the midwife saying like, okay, now we have to push the placenta, and I'm like, oh my gosh, more pain. But thankfully, I think she told me just do like one push, and I remember doing like a little push, and then she's like, oh, the placenta's out. So then she's like, okay, I'm gonna stitch you up because you have some tearing. I'm like, okay, it's gonna sting because they're gonna put lidocaine. I'm like, okay. At this point, I'm like, I already went through the worst. You think the pain ends once you give birth, but no, it just continues. So she put lidocaine, which I did feel the lidocaine. She was stitching me up. I'm getting distracted by the baby. I did feel one of the stitches, and I did say ouch. So she added more lidocaine, and she waited. And after that, I didn't feel the stitches. I did get some tearing. I got 2 tearings, a perineal tearing and a labia tearing. I've never heard of that one. But they were first degree, so superficial. She said they should heal fast. So then after she was done, which felt like she was stitching forever, I had my legs up. Then a nurse comes and she like cleans you out. So before they clean you out, they have to press on your stomach to feel the fundus, and they're just pushing. She's like, I'm gonna push on your stomach and it's gonna hurt. And I'm like, oh my gosh, more pain. So she's pushing on my stomach. It's so painful. It hurts. And I just feel like blood gushing out. And she's like, okay, a couple more pushes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, help me, Lord. I have my baby, which I know, like, I'm getting distracted by this baby, but like, I'm still in pain down there. So she cleaned me out, which was beautiful. Like, these nurses really take care of you. And then they gave me Motrin, which is ibuprofen for the pain. I'm like, why can't you give me Norco? Anyways, so and just by breastfeeding, you get cramps. So it's like never ending pain. So I'm like breastfeeding, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could feel the cramps already happening. It was like around 9. They're like, oh, you could order breakfast now. I'm like, okay, husband, order breakfast for me, please, because I'm starving. JK. I didn't say that. I'm like, okay, let's order breakfast. Then they took the baby to get antibiotics, got antibiotics on the eye, and then the vitamin K shot. So one of the nurses comes in. She's like, okay, you're gonna get up now to try to pee. And I'm like, oh my gosh, never ending pain again. So getting up is so painful. So like getting up, I had that pelvic pain. Plus now I had stitches down there. I had swelling down there. So every time I put pressure, so like sitting up, putting pressure down there, it would be painful. So then they helped me up. I was literally going so slow. They had to help me move my legs out of the bed because I couldn't move them. I was in so much pain. It felt like they just ripped my legs apart, and now they put them back like a Barbie. So I had to walk. I mean, this huge pad. I think I had to hold it from one side. So once I sat down, they're like, okay, I want you to pee. And I'm like, I couldn't even pee. They put water, and like I was trying to pee, but at the same time I was really scared because I'm like, okay, I just have stitches down there, and with the pee it's gonna sting. So I think because I was thinking that, I was kind of stopping myself because I could feel it. I wasn't able to pee. I got up, to wash my hands, and I got really dizzy. So like the nurses, like 2 of the nurses had to like walk me to the bed while my husband was carrying the baby. And then like I just stayed in bed waiting to get admitted, transferred to the postpartum bed. But oh my gosh, like the pain is never ending. You would think that the pain ends once you give birth, but it's just the beginning of pain for like the next couple weeks. So that is my labor and delivery story. The baby was born at 7:45 a.m. very quick. So I'm very, very thankful that she came out healthy and there was no complications. So that I do feel blessed. Something that I learned from this whole experience was to keep an open mind, to keep your options open and not just be settled by your birth plan. Because I was just like, I need epidural. Like, there was no other way. Like, that was just my focus. Like, I'm going to get epidural. As soon as I get there, I'm going to ask for the epidural and I'm going to get it. But not everything will come as planned. I hope you found my experience helpful, and I hope it didn't scare you. It's every pregnancy is different, every childbirth is different. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.